Hey guys, Craig here from Crazy Family Adventure. Today we're going to be installing the best trailer hitch out there on the market, the ProPride 3P Sway Eliminator hitch. This thing is amazing. So I got my assistant Carson here. He's going to be helping out. It's quite a product. So I'm going to flip over here and show you what it is. It's all still in the boxes. So it comes in 4 really big, heavy boxes. It's all packaged really nicely. I think total it weighs about 200 pounds. So I'm a little concerned with that because we're getting close on our weights. So I'm hoping that the anti-sway property or the sway eliminator property of the hitch is going to be worth the weight. So box 1 here, we have the hitch bar that goes into your truck, or in our case, the van. Here's the main unit of the hitch. And if you notice, it looks almost like a 5th wheel hitch. It's pretty cool. This box here is the yoke that goes underneath the tongue of the trailer. All part of the setup here. And then in this box we have the frame bracket and the sway bars. So we're gonna get into it and get this thing going. All right, ProPride sends a really nice instruction booklet. It's got a lot of good pictures, a lot of specific information, but I would definitely recommend going out to YouTube, searching other install videos, getting some prep work done before you get started, because it could be kind of complicated. But the more prepared you are, the better off you are. I think I've watched every video out there, so thanks to all you guys who have done that on your hitch setups. So I feel I'm prepared, but we shall see. All right, as we are full-time on the road, I am not doing this installation in my driveway. I'm doing it at a state park campground, which is kind of odd because everyone else is out having campfires and stuff, but I'm installing a hitch. With that said, we're in a relatively level site, which is good. It does slope a little bit from front to back, side to side, it's pretty level. So because of that, I'm gonna actually have to measure underneath the frame to get the trailer parallel to the ground to simulate being level. So they kind of tell you that in the instructions. Basically, measure from the bottom of the frame in the front and the bottom of the frame in the back of the trailer and make sure those two are equal, and then you're basically going to be level once you get onto a level ground. So that's going to be my first step here. All right, I think I got it pretty much squared up with the ground. Not exactly sure, just because the driveway is so bumpy and wavy that I can't really tell from the measurements on the front and the back of the trailer if it's gonna be perfectly level when I get out on the road, but I think we can adjust that once we get going. So we're gonna move right along. All right, so pre-installation, they recommend taking off all of your old hitch equipment from your tongue of your trailer, and also clean it up and touch up any points that might be rusty, repaint it or whatever. They also say to remove the gas bottles, the propane tanks, because there's going to be a few things that are going to be going in that part of the tongue of the trailer. So I am actually going to hold off on that for the moment. There's our old Blue Ox hitch. And then there's the gas bottles under here. I'm gonna hold off on that, and I'm gonna jump right into getting the hitch bar set up, because as you can see on this particular trailer, this is the Jayco Baja edition. So it has these bigger tires. These are 16-inch rims, and then beefier tread tires. And then it also has a flipped axle and stuff like that. So there's a very high clearance on this trailer. And with the van, there's not that high of a clearance. So I need to be sure that the hitch bar is gonna be high enough to line up with the hitch box and the ProPride main unit there. So I'm gonna do that first. The other thing I wanted to quickly mention is that in the book, it says it should take about a 2-hour install. On the videos I've watched, some has taken quite a bit longer than that. Others have been around that 2-hour mark. I suppose if you've done it before, if you're really prepared, maybe that 2 hours is about right. But we're starting here at 11 o'clock and I want to see how long it's going to take. All right, so here is the instructions for the adjustable hitch bar. So we have to do some measurements. We have to measure from the ground to the top of the hitch receiver opening on the van. Then we have to measure the ball height on the trailer coupler, and then do some subtraction to figure out what that hitch box measurement will be. So let's do that real quick. All right, so we took the measurements. We got the height of the receiver on the van, the height of the coupler on the trailer. We subtracted to figure out where the hitch box will sit, and the numbers that they're telling me in the instructions aren't really lining up with what I got. Like I said, the van is pretty low compared to the high trailer hitch. So I'm gonna try to just line it up on the highest possible setting, put it in the van, and then see if that will work. Just kind of eyeball it. And if not, I'm gonna have to call Sean over at ProPride and see if I can flip this part to go this way. All the instructions talk about it going like this. They don't say anything about flipping this part. They talk about flipping this part, which goes into the van. But if I was able to flip this over and put it this way, then I'd have some more height that I could match up, more level with the trailer. So I'm gonna put it at the lowest setting, which would be the highest actually, kind of like this, and see if that'll line up. And if not, I'm gonna give Sean a call at ProPride and see what he says. All right, so we're gonna first start off by putting the tilt adjustment pin with 2 washers into this side here. And basically that allows you to pitch this part up or down depending on how much sway bar or weight distribution you need to do. So I'm gonna start just with the 2. And then I'm gonna slide this guy in. And then it says, okay, the hitch bar, hitch assembly. You use 4C or 4D, which is what we did. The hitch bar, hitch end will have the holes facing down. 4C or 4D, the holes facing down, which, what does that mean? Okay, there's the picture. Hitch bar, hitch end. Holes facing down, okay. What is the difference between your tow vehicle number and your hitch box number? That difference was 7 inches. 7 inches there. So slide your hitch bar end up or down between the slide plates until the difference between the top of the hitch bar, which is here, and the top of the receiver end is approximately equal to the difference in step 7. So I need this to be 7 inches. So this is basically at the lowest setting and it's at 5 inches. So I'm not sure that's gonna quite line up with what I need it to be. All right, but I'm gonna try it. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna get these bolts in kind of real loose, maybe hand tighten them, put this part into the van and see where this end is gonna line up and see if it's gonna be close enough to make it work. All right, after some remeasurement and re-leveling of the trailer, I think we got it figured out. I wasn't quite parallel to the ground. The frame, it didn't match up to the frame measurement in the back from ground to the frame bottom. So after doing that, we came up with 7, instead of it being 7-inch difference, it's only 4. So now I have my hitch bar, hitch setup quite like that, and this is exactly 4 inches. So I think we are good to go. We got it all figured out. I think that was the hard part of the installation, is figuring that out, which this is all adjustable. So if I take this out on the road and I notice it's just not level when I'm sitting in a level parking lot or something, I could take this back apart and reconfigure it. But I think this is going to be good. So I'm going to get all these hardware installed and tightened up, and then we'll move along with the next part of the installation. All right, we got the hitch bar installed on the van, all torqued down. It looks pretty good. It's level with the ground here, which is a good thing. And then next we're gonna start putting on the hitch, or the sway bar jacks. So that means I'm gonna have to take off both propane tanks, get my Blue Ox stuff off of there, and get those installed. The weight distribution jacks are installed. We had to go 1.5 inches back from the recommended 26 inches, but they said that is totally fine, just to get clearance from the propane tank tray. So those are pretty easy to put in. Basically a U-bolt underneath the frame, and then this bolt on the side to snug that in. So those are both installed, so now we're moving on. All right, so we are moving on to installing the frame bracket, which goes underneath the tongue here. And to do that, I had to remove my tray for the propane tanks, which is right there. There was just four bolts that had that bolted down because the 22-inch mark was right in the middle of it. So there's going to be 2 U-bolts that go over the frame that hold up that frame bracket. And then I'll have to figure out something to stabilize that tray when I put it back on. All right, there's the frame bracket. It is just hand tightened at the moment at 22 inches. I also had to remove this solar plug, I guess you can call it, solar ready. It's kind of a joke because this was bumping into the frame bracket there, so I'm gonna maybe move this up a little bit, or just cut it off because we have solar on the roof. We don't need it on the trailer tongue. So that's it. Now we're gonna start putting on the main hitch unit and getting hooked up. All right, we got the main hitch unit put onto the hitch bar on the tow vehicle. This thing is heavy, man. That is heavy. And then we got one over center latch locked in like it says in the instructions. We're gonna hook now this up to the coupler on the trailer. The one weird thing though about this one is you can adjust these little bar things by tightening them or loosening them, and then they fit in that little slot there, and then you use the breaker bar to torque that and it locks in. This side has some decent tension on it. This one doesn't. I could do it with my hand. Even if I tighten this all the way as tight as it can go, it still doesn't quite, no, now it's off-centered here. It still doesn't quite lock in like I'd like it to. So I'm not sure what that's about, because this is basically what's holding your trailer to your tow vehicle. So I want to make sure that that's good. So we'll see what that's about. But now we're going to grease this ball up, and we're going to get it hooked up to the trailer, and then start installing the yoke underneath it. All right, we have the van hooked up now, and this latched in nicely. It's seated on the ball real good. So now it's time to put the spring bars in. We're getting there. We're 2 hours into it right now, but we're taking our time. We had lunch, had a coffee. Beer will be coming out soon, so let's get these measurements right before we start tapping into that. All right, sway bars are installed. Not too difficult. Basically had to insert the end of the sway bar into there, tighten this nut down, and then hook it into the U-bolt on this side, and that hooks onto the jack. So Now we're ready to do the yoke, which is the last step, and then we'll wrap it up. There's the yoke installed. That's this guy here. And basically to do that, you feed this bolt through a washer, through this part of the yoke, through another washer, through this part of the main hitch unit, through a lock washer, and then through the nut there. And then do the same on this other side. And you kind of while you're doing that, you let the yoke hang down, and after you get those bolts kind of hand tightened enough, you attach it to the frame bracket under here just by putting the tail of that yoke between these two downward tubes, and then you run the bolt through those downward tubes to lock it in. So now the only irritating part is they sent a nice breaker bar. Where is it? This breaker bar here. They sent this along, as well as a 15/16 socket. But the problem is you really got to torque these in tight, and this socket does not fit on it. This is like an inch or an inch and an eighth, and I don't have that. I don't have that big of a socket to do that, so I might have to be running to Home Depot to grab one of those up. But in the meantime, I'm gonna do the adjustment on the yoke. This is adjustable here, and there's a measurement that needs to be 1 inch or 2 inches from the bottom of the frame, so I got to do that, and then I'll start torquing everything down, and it should be good to go. And I'll start putting everything back and take it for a spin and see how it works. Alright, so I made it back from Home Depot. I had to go get a 1 1/8" socket to torque down these yoke bolts. And that worked out fine once I had the right size socket wrench. So then I got everything else tightened up on the yoke. The one thing you have to pay attention to is to make sure that this yoke is level with your trailer. And then also there's a 1 to 2 inch gap here. And mine's pretty close onto this emergency brake, but that should be okay there. I'll keep an eye on that when I take it out here for a spin. But then I just tighten those down, retighten the bolts for the weight distribution bars, and now I'm ready to put the propane bottles back on and get this thing hooked up and take it out for a spin. We're gonna put the tray for the propane tanks back on, and this U-bracket, this U-bolt, is sitting right in the middle of where that tray is gonna go. So we stacked up 4 washers on each side. All right, let that chainsaw rip, just to balance it out so the tray's not rocking when we screw it back in. So it should be level, should be flush, and it should make it clear over this U-bracket. All right, we are all tightened down and propane back on, and the issue we're having now is the chain extensions, the safety chain extensions. I can't get this off of my existing safety chain, throw on the extension. So I'm gonna try to back it in, hitch it up, and see if the existing chain will reach, but it's not looking very promising. So we're gonna try to hitch this bad boy up and see how it goes.
Hey, what are you doing there?
We are greasing up the hitch box. This was recommended by somebody on YouTube, and it made hitching and unhitching a lot easier. So I'm just putting some grease in here. And then they also mentioned to put a piece of bright colored tape around the box, then you can see it as you're backing in. Which are good points, man. That's good knowledge. You're in there. about that much. How far are you gonna come in? Like,
All the way, right? You gotta go all the way in?
yeah, it's gonna roll back.
Alright.
Yeah. Pretty close. Yeah, I think that's good.
Is that how far it's supposed to go in then?
That's where it's supposed to go.
So I know too for telling you.
Yeah.
That's it.
Well, maybe you have to come back.
Alright,
Yeah.
let's see, is the chain gonna reach?
No, we're not even close.
Not even close.
Not even
huh?
close, no. With the extension.
With the extension, you'd be fine,
The
huh?
extension would work. Yeah. Hang on. Okay. Ultra approved. All right, we're all hooked up, ready to go. I'm gonna go take it for a test drive just a couple miles down the road, see how it is, and then see if I have to make any adjustments once we get to like a leveler spot. So we'll check that out, see how it goes. All right, well, that was my first about 3 mile test run with the new hitch put on. And I think it did really, really good so far. Like, I was passed by a big semi, I was going downhill and it was windy and I didn't feel any movement in the trailer behind me. It felt real solid. So I think there's a couple adjustments that I'm gonna have to make with the weight distribution part of it. But other than that, I think it is really good and I'm really excited to see how it goes. We have about a 2-hour drive tomorrow through the California and Oregon mountains, so I'll get a better feel for it then, but so far it's looking good. All right, so the hitch has been installed. I took it for a test drive. It went good. I got to do a couple adjustments. However, the final time is 7 p.m. I started at 11 a.m. So that was 8 hours, and it said 2, but I had to go to Home Depot twice to pick up a couple things I didn't have, and that was an hour at least each time because it's a half an hour one way to get there. So overall, I was figuring it would take a half a day. It probably about did. And we took our time, did it slow, didn't rush it. Went pretty smooth, had some help, had a couple beers, so it is what it is. All right, so I have a slight adjustment I got to make to the hitch bar. It was a little bit too low at the lowest setting that it could go for my trailer, which, like I said before, it rides pretty high. So I talked to Sean at ProPride, and he said that I could actually reverse the orientation of the hitch end of the hitch bar to point like that. And it gave me the right height to match up with the hitch box on the trailer. So I'm gonna give this a try. So I reoriented it, and I'm gonna use my jack to hold pressure at the end of that hitch bar to make sure that the hitch tilt adjustment pin stays real tight against the bar here, which they're pretty clear about that in the instructions. So this worked before, and then I'll torque it down, and then we'll take it for a ride in a couple days to see how this ride does. And then I also added 2 more of the washers here into that tilt adjustment pin, and that was so I can get a little bit more of a downward angle. As you can see, it'll be a little bit higher than that once it's all torqued down, and that's to help with the weight distribution. The more pointed down it is, the more weight gets transferred up to the front wheels. So I needed that because it felt a little heavy on the back end when we were driving it the other day. So I'm gonna try that as well. All right, so we are at 200 miles towing with the ProPride 3P hitch. So I wanted to give a quick update on how it's gone since we did the install, we did the test drive, and now we've driven it for a considerable amount of time. and I've gotten a feel for it. So I wanted to update everybody and say it is amazing. Oh man, everything is really, really great about it. The hitching, the unhitching process is way easier than it was when I had my standard kind of ball and hitch, receiver mount. I used to have to like jump on the van bumper to get the thing to release from the coupler on the trailer. It was a really weird setup. I don't know what it was, but this, with the ProPride, you just basically make sure everything is leveled off the same height. You back it in and you get it close enough, and then you just torque down those two over center latches and you're good to go. And taking it off, unhitching, same thing. You just get it pretty much level and you pull right out, no problem. The towing part has been great. I wouldn't say you can't feel the trailer in the back, but I mean, look at this thing. It's a big trailer. It's a 30-footer, so it's gonna be behind you. You're gonna know it's there, but it's not white knuckle driving like it was for me back when I was using the Blue Ox. Now when I get some push, if there's crosswinds or if there's a semi coming up beside me, everything's moving. The van is moving and the trailer's moving. It's not like the tail wagging the dog kind of scenario where it was with the old standard hitch. So that is a super, super big success for me, because towing this thing was a nightmare. Travel days were I was just totally freaked out about it, and it just brought the whole trip down. Now I'm good to go. So ProPride 3P hitch, big thumbs up from me. I love it. Make sure to check out our blog. I'll have some more info on it at crazyfamilyadventure.com. And for now, I'm tuning out. So yeah, get yourself a ProPride 3P hitch, definitely.